Hi all. Now let's learn about assumptions of rational consumer choice and their limitations. Okay. So, what are the assumptions of rational consumer choice? So basically, the rational consumer choice mean free markets are biased on the idea of rational decision making. So what does it mean? Free markets are based on the idea of rational decision making. So in economics, rational means consumers compare choices and select the option with the greatest benefit or satisfaction. That is utility. So that is how we purchase a product, right? We will compare its quality, its price, its use, and we will choose which one is best for us, right? So it means the consumers compare choices and select the option with the greatest benefit of or satisfactory, which is utility. Clear? So, the rational choice theory states people make logical decisions in their own best interest. Okay, so we'll be making some decisions based on our own interest, right? Which is best for us. So, many economic theories assumes consumers, firms, and governments try to maximize satisfaction. So, in many economic theories, they assume that the consumers, firms, governments, all of them try to maximize satisfaction. That is the truth, right? We always try to maximize our satisfaction. For example, you can take the case that according to law of demand, we have learned law of demand, right? When prices fall, consumers buy more goods and services, right? Which will give us more satisfaction. We can buy the product at a reduced cost. Now let's see what are the main assumptions of the traditional economics. First thing is consumer rationality. Consumer use logical calculation to make decisions and they use all available information to choose what is best for them. Like that, we used to buy things, right? We will check the thing, we will check the price, we will check the uses, and also we will compare it with the other products and the utility maximization. What is utility maximization? Consumer choose the option that gives the greatest satisfaction, right? Like for example, a person may choose swimming over running if it gives greater enjoy. It we can connect it with any topics, okay, whether your schools, your choice of vehicle, food, course you are studying, everything. So which thing give you more satisfaction, you will be choosing that only, right? That's perfect information. So information is very important. So in our market, mostly we only have partial information, right? What is partial information? We don't have the complete access. Like sometimes you might have noticed that many news and other things are coming that these product contain these harmful things or some sort of other things which is not clearly visible, which is imperfect information, right? So consumers assume you to have full information about products and services, which is actually not possible. Anyway, that is how they assume it. These are the assumptions of traditional economists. Okay. And information is assumed to be easy to access and understand. So they assume that everybody have complete information of each and every product available in the market, and these information is very easy to access and they can clearly understand. Okay, so definitely it coins to the limitations of the theory, right? So let's see what are the limitations of the theory. So we will start with the behavioral economics. So behavioral economics combines psychology and economics. Okay, so it will combined with the psychology, that is how human beings are behaving, and theories of economics. So it argues that people do not always behave rationally. So sometimes we may not behave rationally, right? Why? Decisions are influenced by emotions, habit, social pressure, and some biases, right? So we have some emotional attachment to some things. So we might buy it without considering its uses or any other factors, and some social pressures, biases, our habits, all this. So we will start with the biases. So what do we mean by bias? Biases affect how people process information and make choice. So biases affect how people process information and make choice. So the same type of thing, we can take it in a positive mode and negative mode, right? So that is how the bias is affected. So there are some type of biases. Let's dig into deep. First thing is rule of thumb. What is rule of thumb? What do you mean by that? Consumer repeat familiar choices based on habit or experience. For example, ordering the same pizza every time instead of trying a discounted option. So we have some favorites, right? Once we tried something and we loved it, loved the flavor, the smell, or the taste. So we might continuously buying that product instead of trying something new or trying something discounted option, something like that. Okay, that is a rule of thumb. Consumers repeat familiar choices based on habit or experience. Then we have anchoring bias. What is anchoring bias? People rely too much on the first piece of information they receive. So they will blindly believe or they rely more on the first information they receive. For example, used car sellers suggest a high starting price influencing the buyer's judgment. Okay. And what is framing bias? That is a third type. Decisions depend on how information is presented. For example, consumers prefer 80% fat free over 20% fat, right? Which means both are the same, right? The product only has 20% fat means it is 80% fat free. But it depends on how the information is present. Okay, so the 80% fat free have more impact than only 20% fat. Okay, so that is how framing bias works. Then availability bias. What is availability bias? People judge situations using information that come easily to mind. For example, fear of flying after hearing the news about plane crash. So that is a common thing, right? Whenever we think about something, whenever we hear about something, some incident, some experience might be there in our mind, right? So that is how availability bias is working. So people judge situation using information that comes easily to their mind. And the second limitation is it is bounded rationality theory. So what is bounded rationality theory? It means that people cannot gather or process all information before making all decisions. That is almost correct, right? We won't be able to remember everything or we won't be able to gather all the information before making a decision because the decision will be delayed for many years or months, etc. Right? So the decision making is limited by limited thinking capacity, as we mentioned, lack of time, limited information, and too much choice. So all these are limitations to our decision making capacity. So when there is when the thinking capacity is limited, we won't be able to differentiate many things. Then lack of time. If the just imagine that you need to go on a trip tomorrow. So you will have to pack up whatever things is available at that right time, right? You won't have enough time there. Then limited information. Sometimes you won't have complete information on some products, so limited information and too much choice. Obviously, like nowadays, each and every variant of a product have different options, right? So too much of choice. So consumers may struggle to choose between many supermarkets product, right? So whenever you're going to buy a soap, just a bathing soap, you can see like a lot of companies are there with different fragrances, shapes, and attractive packaging. So sometimes we might be confused to buy something, right? Which one I should choose, which is the best. So we'll be confused. That is too much choice. Third limitation is bounded self control. So, what do you mean by bounded self control? People cannot always control impulses and emotions, right? We are human beings. There is a limit that we can control our emotions and impulses. So, decisions may influenced by social pressure or temptation, like doing something others doing or buying something our friends has already purchased, all these things. For example, impulse buying at the supermarket checkouts or spending money on unnecessary items. Okay. And what is the business strategy here? Firms use marketing technique to encourage impulse purchases, right? So sometimes when we continuously watching a particular ad or from any shopping websites or supermarkets, etc., we might feel like, let me give it a try, right? We will feel like, let's try it at least once. So that will improve their business, but it's not good for the consumer. Then fourth point is bounded selfishness. So selfishness, everyone knows, right? What does it mean? So people do not always act self-interest. Individuals sometimes act to help others without remorse. That is bounded selfishness. For example, charity donations, organ donations, voluntary works, etc. And as we mentioned, perfect information is a myth. It's not possible at all, right? So the imperfect information is the next limitation. So what does imperfect information? Consumers rarely have complete information, right? And information may be expensive, difficult to understand, or hidden. For example, if you are reading some chemical names and you are not related to any chemical topics, you may not understand the contents on a particular product that you use, right? That is a limitation. And sometimes we won't be able to gather all the information. Gathering information is expensive. And also, it may be hidden as well, right? Not all the informations are published on every product. And what will be the causes of that? Patents and copyrights, cost of information, too many choices, and asymmetric information. For an example, you can take that the sellers of second-hand car usually known for more than the buyers, right? So whenever you are whenever you're trying to buy a second-hand car, whatever the owner says, that is all you know, right? You don't have an additional access to any other information. So you will only get to know about the car once you buy it, right? So that is how it works. I hope it is clear for everyone.